Hayao Miyazaki is without a doubt a master of the fantastic. When you watch one of his films, you step through a portal into another world, filled with strange beings following strange new rules. And even the smallest gesture there seems to have a touch of magic to it. Look a little closer though, and you'll start to see pieces of something familiar, traces of the world you thought you left behind.
午前中は川掃除で毎週だいぶ今日は街にどれだけ形で現れるか自分の住んでるとこ撮ったんですよ。何の日から片っ端から撮ったんです。これは僕らが掃除してる川です。綺麗になったでしょ。
Miyazaki has always been a keen observer of both the historical past and the modern present which that history produced, and remnants of those things are always popping up in his work. Miyazaki's films may be fantasy, but they're full of history and haunted by the ghost of modernity. I'd like to take a closer look now at a Miyazaki film which I think best exemplifies how he likes to mix elements of both the fantastic and the historical. Kiki's Delivery Service is a film about a 13-year-old girl preparing to leave home for the first time, and right away we can see the fantasy elements coming into play. Kiki is a magic witch who can fly on a broomstick, her mother can mix up magic potions, and she's best friends with a talking black cat named Gigi. Kiki, mite. This is all standard fantasy fare, and seeing it puts us in a certain state of mind, something almost like a dream, a trance, where we're ready to accept the world of the fantastic. The film's setting also helps to contribute to this general mood. When designing Koriko, the city by the sea where most of the film takes place, Miyazaki took influence from a number of real European cities, including Lisbon, Stockholm, Paris, and Naples. Koriko resembles all of these cities, and yet is not quite any of them, creating a general air of familiarity about the place which at the same time evades concrete identification. This all comes together with the lush animation to create an almost hypnotic viewing experience, a daydream, a fantasy. Throughout the fantasy, however, we can glimpse pieces of history poking through. The action of the film kicks off when, spurred on by passion and a good weather forecast, Kiki goes flying into the night looking for a new city to live in. As she flies, we see a whole bunch of visual markers which help clue us in to when about the movie takes place. We see industrial smokestacks, cars, and we even see an old biplane called the Handley Page HP-42 come flying by. The Handley Page was a British warplane that fought in the Second World War, so it's a little ominous to see it making a run over the countryside in the middle of the night like this. Kiki's Delivery Service takes place in an alternate history Europe where World War II never happened, but by setting the film at such a pivotal point in modern history, Miyazaki shows himself to be deeply preoccupied with 20th century modernity and with the global order birthed by the war which we now live in. As the story moves forward, we see a number more symbols of modernity popping up. There's a train, phones, more cars, more planes, TV. But the most important symbol has to be the dirigible, the airship that goes crashing through the city at the end of the film. In the film, it gets called the Spirit of Freedom, but personally, I can only think of it as the ghost of the Hindenburg. When the Hindenburg caught fire and crashed over New Jersey in May of 1937, it created some of the most haunting images ever to be caught on film. Originally hailed as a triumph of engineering and a symbol of Germany's rebirth as a leader in the modern world, the disaster transformed the Hindenburg instead into a symbol of the destructive potential of modernity.
And now Padley Gazette presents the first pictures ever to be taken on board the new airship in flight. Her designers claim that she sets a new standard in comfortable air travel, and even smoking is allowed in the special fireproof writing room.
Smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers screaming around it.
The disaster happened only 2 years before the outbreak of World War II and stood as a dark harbinger of things to come. By including these images of a Zeppelin disaster terrorizing the public, Miyazaki is keying into some deep scars. The threat posed by modern technology is an issue Miyazaki will visit again and again throughout his career, most explicitly in films like Nausicaa, Princess Mononoke, and The Wind Rises. I chose to talk about Kiki's Delivery Service though, and not those other films, because I wanted to show how even when Miyazaki isn't trying to make a statement, even when he's just putting out a fun little fantasy film for kids, he's still grappling with those old problems. History doesn't stay confined to the past for Miyazaki, or anyone really. It likes to stick to you. You can find fragments of it almost anywhere you look, and Kiki's Delivery Service shows how sometimes it can even follow you into your dreams. We love this film because of how it transports us away from the hard world we know and lets us forget our concerns for a little while to just lose ourselves in watching this girl and her delivery startup. If we dig just a little deeper though, we rediscover the world we were trying to get away from, and we begin to see something, the afterimage of one of history's ghosts. The ghost died in a fire on May 6, 1937, foreshadowing the fires of a war that would change the world forever. It's called the Spirit of Freedom in the film, but its true name is LZ-129 Hindenburg, and it's not the Spirit of Freedom, but the Ghost of Modernity.